At 5 a.m., my daughter was hysterically screaming my name outside the locked door of the house where I had changed all the locks the day before. A minute later, my son-in-law arrived with a crowbar. "When I get in, you're done for." But behind me, a calm voice said, "Step aside. I'll take care of this." He opened the door, my daughter and son-in-law saw him, and everything changed. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. I heard them before I saw the document spread across my dining room table. "When do you think the old man will kick it?" Homer's voice carried from the living room, casual as if discussing the weather. My hand froze on the kitchen doorframe. I'd just returned from the cardiologist. Blood pressure issues, nothing serious, but enough to warrant monitoring. The prescription bottle rattled in my coat pocket. "Homer, don't say it like that." Letitia's voice, my daughter's voice, held hesitation rather than outrage. "Why not? You said yourself he's got heart problems now. This is our chance, Letty. The house is worth almost 700 grand. I should have walked in, should have confronted them right there. Instead, I stayed frozen, listening to my world crack apart. "But putting him in a home," Letitia trailed off. "It's called assisted living, and he needs it. Guy can barely remember to take his pills." Homer's footsteps paced across my hardwood floors I'd refinanced the house to replace 3 years ago. "Look, your friend's husband is a notary, right? We get power of attorney while he's hospitalized next time, sell the place, and boom, split the money. He'll be taken care of. We'll be set." "I don't know." "You don't know?" His voice sharpened. "We've been stuck in this house for 4 years, Letty. 4 years of living with your father, listening to his boring book stories, pretending we're grateful. Meanwhile, you're drowning in credit card debt, and my last venture fell through because we didn't have capital. This solves everything." Silence stretched. Then my daughter, my little girl, who used to bring me dandelions and call them sunshine flowers, spoke. "Okay, but we wait until he's actually in the hospital. Can't look suspicious." The prescription bottle slipped from my hand, clattering against the tile. The conversation in the living room stopped abruptly. "Dad?" Letitia called out. "That you?" I bent down, retrieved the bottle, and forced my voice steady. "Just me. Dropped something." I walked toward my bedroom, past the living room where they sat rigid on the couch I'd bought them as a housewarming gift when they'd moved in temporarily, 4 years ago. In my room, I sat on the bed and stared at the wall. The financial statements from my accountant were still in my briefcase from last week. I pulled them out, spreading them across my desk like evidence at a crime scene. Wedding costs, $32,000. I'd paid for everything. The venue at Castaway Portland, the photographer, the flowers, the open bar that Homer's college friends had emptied. Letitia had cried happy tears and called me the best father in the world. Homer's business ventures, loans totaling $89,000 over 3 years. The food truck that failed. The cryptocurrency mining operation that crashed. The app development company that never developed anything. Each time, he'd sat across from me at this very desk, earnest and passionate, promising returns that never materialized. Credit card bills I'd paid, $18,000 in the past year alone. "Just until my influencer career takes off, Dad," Letitia had said. Her Instagram showed designer handbags and restaurant meals at Le Pigeon, each post captioned with humble brags about her blessed life. Monthly expenses I covered, $380. Utilities, groceries, their car insurance. They'd stopped offering to contribute after the first month. Total, more than I wanted to calculate. I heard their bedroom door close down the hall. Hushed voices continued. Planning, probably. Refining their strategy. My phone buzzed. Text from Douglas Ramsey, my attorney from the book business days. "Lunch next week? Been too long, Neil?" I stared at that message for a long moment. Then I typed, "How about tomorrow? Something's come up." The next morning, Homer was sprawled on my couch in expensive Nike gear, $200 joggers I'd seen him unbox last month. Letitia emerged from their room in a silk robe that probably cost more than my water bill. "Morning, Dad." She kissed my cheek, the gesture automatic, empty. "You feeling okay?" "You look tired." "Fine, just thinking." I poured coffee, watching them in my peripheral vision. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you both." Homer's head snapped up from his phone. Letitia's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. I know you've both been stressed, I continued, measuring each word. Money's tight, opportunities are limited. So, I want to do something for you. They exchanged glances, hope flickered across their faces, the kind of hope predators feel when prey walks closer. I'm sending you on vacation, Las Vegas, all expenses paid, 7 days, luxury hotel, shows, everything. You two deserve a break. Letitia blinked. Dad, that's really generous, but no buts. Consider it an early Christmas gift. I already booked it. You leave Thursday. I smiled, the same smile I'd used when closing business deals back when Cunningham's books was still mine. I could use some quiet time anyway. Doctor's orders, reduce stress. Homer's face transformed into genuine excitement. 7 days? Full comp? $4,500 worth. The Cosmopolitan. You've mentioned wanting to go. They didn't even pretend to resist. Letitia hugged me, and for a moment, just a moment, I wanted to believe she actually cared, that I'd misheard yesterday's conversation. Then Homer said, "This is perfect timing, actually. We need this." The way he said need carried weight, I understood too well. Thursday arrived. I drove them to Portland International Airport, helped with their luggage, and watched them disappear through security. Letitia waved once. Homer was already on his phone. I drove home to 2847 NE Alameda Street, my house in the Beaumont, Wilshire neighborhood. The house I'd bought in 1998, when Letitia was 7 and the world still made sense. Then I called a locksmith. "How many locks are we talking?" the voice on the phone asked. "All of them," I said, watching rain streak down my windshield. "Every single one." The locksmith arrived within an hour, professional, efficient, asked no questions beyond the necessary ones. I watched him work through each door, front, back, garage, side entrance. The metallic clicks of new tumblers falling into place sounded like a countdown. $450. Small price for peace of mind. When he left, I stood in my living room and felt the house breathe differently. Lighter somehow. I'd lived here 27 years, raised Letitia in these rooms, and only now did it feel like mine again. My phone buzzed. Text from Letitia. "At the hotel. OMG, Dad. It's amazing. Thank you so much." 3 heart emojis and a champagne glass. I set the phone down and walked to my study. The next morning, I met Douglas Ramsey at Pine State Biscuits on Alberta Street. He was already there when I arrived, coffee steaming, reading something on his tablet. Doug had handled the legal work when I sold Cunningham's books back in 2019. Meticulous, sharp, never missed a detail. "Neil." He stood, shook my hand firmly. "You sounded serious on the phone. I need your professional opinion on something." I slid into the booth across from him. "Hypothetically, if someone has been living in my house for 4 years without a lease, without paying rent, what are my rights as a property owner?" Doug's eyebrows rose slightly. "In Oregon, pretty straightforward, actually. Without a written rental agreement, they're considered guests at will. You can ask them to leave any time. If they refuse, you file for eviction, but honestly, it rarely gets that far." "What if they've been there 4 years?" "Doesn't matter. No lease, no tenant rights. They're guests." He paused, studying my face. "This is about Letitia and her husband, isn't it?" I nodded slowly. Doug leaned back, choosing his words carefully. "I heard through the grapevine they were still living with you. Figured it was temporary." "So did I, 4 years ago." I pulled out my phone, showed him the spreadsheet I'd compiled the night before. "This is what temporary cost me." He scrolled through the numbers. His expression shifted from neutral to concerned to something close to anger. "Neil, this is over $300,000. $312,000 if we're being precise. And that's just what I documented. Doesn't count the dinners out, the gas money, the 1,000 little things they never paid back." A waitress appeared. We ordered. I wasn't hungry, but Doug insisted I eat something. When she left, he leaned forward. "What happened?" I told him about the conversation I'd overheard. The plan to get power of attorney, sell the house, put me in assisted living. Doug's jaw tightened with each detail. "That's financial elder abuse," he said flatly. "Potentially criminal, depending on how far they took it." "Did they already contact a notary?" "I don't know. I sent them to Vegas before they could do anything." "Smart move." Doug pulled out his own phone, started making notes. "Okay, here's what we do. First, you're protected. The house is solely in your name, right?" "Yes." "Good. No joint ownership, no chance they can claim community property. Second, we document everything. Every loan, every payment, every promise made and broken. Oregon has a 6-year statute of limitations on debt collection. You can pursue repayment. He paused. But Neil, I have to ask, do you want to pursue this legally, or do you just want them out? The waitress brought our food. I stared at my plate, considering. I want them to understand, I said finally. They think I'm some foolish old man who doesn't notice when he's being used. They're planning to rob me of my home, my independence, my dignity. I want them to know exactly who they tried to manipulate. Doug nodded slowly. Then we build a case, solid, ironclad, no room for negotiation. When they come back from Vegas, you hold all the cards. We spent the next hour going through details. Doug would draft a formal demand letter for repayment. We'd gather evidence, bank statements, text messages, emails, any documentation of their promises and failures. He mentioned Oregon revised statutes, 105.05, the law governing property rights in guest situations. One more thing, Doug said as we finished. You might want a witness to their reaction when they come back and find the locks changed. Someone who can verify if things get ugly. You have anyone you trust? I thought of Orville. We'd been friends since college, stayed in touch despite his demanding career as a federal prosecutor. He'd retired 5 years ago to a quiet life in Portland's West Hills. But I knew he still had that sharp edge, that ability to make people confess just by looking at them. I might know someone. That evening, I called Orville Hart. The phone rang 3 times. Neil Cunningham, been a while. His voice was exactly as I remembered, measured, calm, with an undercurrent of authority that never quite left. I need a favor, Orville. Actually, I need a witness. Sounds intriguing. Tell me everything. I did. When I finished, silence stretched for a long moment. So your daughter and son-in-law, Orville said slowly, are planning to commit what amounts to fraud and elder abuse, and you want me there when they realize you've outsmarted them? That's the simplified version, yes. When do they get back? 4 more days. I'll be there. Actually, he paused. Why don't I come over the night before? We can catch up, and I'll already be in place when they arrive. Something tells me this is going to be worth seeing. I smiled despite everything. You always did like a good confrontation. Only when justice is on the right side. His voice hardened slightly. I remember Letitia as a kid, Neil. Sweet girl. What happened? Life happened. Money happened. Social media happened. I looked around my empty living room. She stopped being my daughter somewhere along the way and became someone I don't recognize. People show you who they really are when they think you're not paying attention, Orville said. You did the right thing paying attention. Over the next 3 days, I prepared. Doug sent over preliminary documents, the demand letter, an itemized list of debts, a formal notice that they were guests without tenant rights and must vacate. I reviewed security camera footage from my doorbell system, found clips of Homer coming home at 3 a.m, drunk, one time with a woman who wasn't Letitia. Interesting. I saved that file. I also went through old photo albums. Letitia at 7, gap-toothed smile, holding up a drawing she'd made for me at school. Letitia at 16, rolling her eyes but hugging me after I'd helped her study for the SATs. Letitia at her college graduation, genuine tears as she thanked me in her speech for believing in her. When did she stop believing in me? My neighbor, Lavinia Mitchell, caught me taking out trash on the 3rd day. Neil, haven't seen much of you lately. Where's Letitia and that husband of hers? Vegas? Vacation. Oh, how nice. Lavinia was 77 and knew everyone's business on the block. You know, I've been meaning to say something. The other night, must have been 2 weeks ago, I heard shouting from your place. That young man of hers has quite the temper. Homer can be passionate, I said diplomatically. Passionate, she sniffed. He was yelling about money, said some very unkind things. I almost called the police, thought you might be in trouble. I appreciate your concern, Lavinia. Well, you just let me know if you need anything. I'm always watching. She smiled, but her eyes were serious. Always. I filed that information away. A witness to Homer's temper might prove useful. The night before their return, Orville arrived at 7. He looked exactly as he had at his retirement party. Tall, distinguished, silver hair perfectly styled, wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than Homer's entire wardrobe. The house looks good, he said, stepping inside. I remember when you bought this place. Letitia was, what, 7? 8. Different world back then. I closed the door, the new locks engaged with a satisfying click. Coffee? Please. We sat in the kitchen, falling into the easy rhythm of old friends. He told me about his retirement, the consulting work he occasionally did, his recent trip to Italy. I told him about the book business, how I'd known when to sell, how the money was supposed to secure my retirement. Instead, it secured their lifestyle, Orville observed. Exactly. Around 11, he checked his watch. What time do they land tomorrow? Flight gets in at 3:30. Takes about 40 minutes to get home from PDX. I'd say 4:30, maybe 5 if they stop somewhere. Then we wait. He smiled, and it was the smile I remembered from news coverage of his trials, the smile that made criminals nervous. I'm looking forward to meeting them properly. I slept surprisingly well that night, knowing Orville was in the guest room down the hall. When I woke just before dawn, the house felt different, protected, ready. The endgame was about to begin. They arrived earlier than expected, 4:47 in the morning, according to the clock on my nightstand. I'd been awake for an hour already, sitting in the living room with coffee going cold in my hands. Orville was in the kitchen, also dressed, also waiting. We'd barely spoken since midnight. No need for words when you both understood what was coming. The sound of a car engine cut through the pre-dawn quiet, then doors slamming, footsteps on the walkway. I stayed seated, didn't move, just waited. The key scraped in the lock, once, twice, a pause, confusion probably. Then again, harder this time, the metal grinding against metal that no longer matched. What the... Homer's voice muffled through the door, more attempts, frustrated jiggling. Then silence. The doorbell rang. Once, polite. I sipped my coffee, now completely cold. It rang again, longer this time, more insistent. Orville glanced at me from the kitchen doorway. I shook my head slightly. Not yet. Knocking started, sharp, demanding. Dad? Dad, are you awake? The key isn't working. Letitia's voice carried that edge of panic she got when things didn't go according to plan, like the time her sorority didn't pick her for president, or when her blog failed to get sponsored by that makeup company. The knocking became pounding. Neil! Homer now, dropping any pretense of respect. Open this door! What did you do to the locks? I stood up slowly, joints protesting after sitting so long. Walked to the window, pulled back the curtain just enough to see them. Homer was in wrinkled clothes. They must have taken a red-eye flight. Letitia looked exhausted, her makeup smeared, designer luggage scattered around their feet. Homer saw me. His face transformed from confusion to rage in a heartbeat. Open this door now. I let the curtain fall and returned to my chair. The pounding intensified. Somewhere down the street, a dog started barking. Lights came on in Lavinia's house across the way. I saw her curtain twitch. Good. Witnesses. This is my house! Letitia was screaming now, all composure gone. You can't lock me out of my house! Interesting how quickly ownership had transferred in her mind. The pounding stopped. Footsteps moved away from the front door. I heard them go around toward the garage. Homer would remember the side entrance there. More cursing when that lock didn't work either. Then everything went quiet for maybe 5 minutes. I almost stood to check what they were doing when I heard it. The garage door, not the electronic opener, which I disabled. The manual override. Homer must have remembered that trick. More footsteps. Then the crash of something metal against wood. He changed the interior locks too, Homer's voice, disbelieving. Then, louder, angrier. Fine, fine! The first blow hit the front door. The crowbar, I'd left it in the garage specifically, curious if Homer would be stupid enough to use it, struck the wood with a crack that echoed down the street. Orville straightened in the kitchen. I held up one hand. Wait, another blow? The door was solid oak. I'd replaced it myself 15 years ago, but the frame around the lock was starting to splinter. Yes! Letitia's voice, encouraging. Break it down! He can't do this! Blow after blow. Homer was shouting with each swing, working himself into a frenzy. When I get in there, crack. You're finished, old man. Crack. I'll have you committed. Crack. You're done. The lock mechanism was starting to give way. Lavinia's front door opened across the street. She stood on her porch in a bathrobe, phone in hand. Even at this distance, I could see she was recording. Perfect. Almost there. Homer's breathing was ragged now. I'm gonna throw you in the worst nursing home in Portland. You'll eat through a tube. That's enough. Orville's voice, calm and cold, cut through everything like a blade through silk. I heard him walk across the living room. His footsteps were measured, unhurried. The lock clicked as he turned the new deadbolt. The door swung open. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. I couldn't see them from where I sat, but I could imagine the scene perfectly. Homer with the crowbar raised mid-swing, Letitia behind him, both frozen at the sight of Orville Hart standing in the doorway in his immaculate dark suit, backlit by the interior lights. Homer started. Lower the crowbar, Orville said. Not a request, a command. The crowbar hit the concrete with a clang that made me smile. I stood then, walked to the doorway to see the show. Homer had gone pale. Letitia's hand was over her mouth, eyes wide. She whispered. You're Orville Hart. I am. He stepped aside slightly. Come in. I think we need to have a conversation. Homer took a step back instead. The prosecutor. Former, Orville corrected. I retired 5 years ago, but yes, I spent 28 years putting people in prison, 47 convictions, no acquittals. He paused. I don't lose. Letitia grabbed Homer's arm. What's he doing here? Dad, what's going on? I walked forward, stopped beside Orville, looked at my daughter and her husband standing on my porch like strangers caught trespassing, which, legally, they now were. Surprise, I said simply. Letitia, Homer, you remember Orville. We went to Portland State together, best friends for 40 years. 42, Orville corrected mildly. Neil paid my tuition senior year when my father died, $8,000. I've never forgotten that kindness. His eyes fixed on Homer. I remember everything about kindness, and everything about betrayal. Homer's jaw worked soundlessly. Letitia had tears streaming down her face. Whether from panic or confusion or exhaustion, I couldn't tell. I don't understand, she said. Dad, why would you change the locks? Why would you... We live here? Lived, I corrected. Past tense. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recording app. Let me play you something. I recorded this conversation the day before I sent you to Vegas. I pressed play. Homer's voice filled the early morning air. When do you think the old man will kick it? Letitia's face went from confused to horrified in 3 seconds. This is our chance, Letty. The house is worth almost $700,000. We get power of attorney while he's hospitalized next time. Sell the place, and boom. He'll be taken care of. We'll be set. I stopped the recording. Quite the plan. Inspired, really. Ship me off to assisted living, forge my signature, steal my house. Very creative. Homer stumbled over his words. It was a joke. We weren't serious. A joke. Orville's voice could have frozen water. Threatening to commit fraud, forgery, and elder financial abuse is a joke to you, Mr. Yates? The use of his last name made Homer flinch. Those crimes carry significant penalties in Oregon, Orville continued. Financial exploitation of the elderly under ORS 124-110 can result in up to 5 years in prison. Add attempted fraud and conspiracy. We're looking at a decade, possibly more. You can't prove anything, Homer's voice cracked. The recording is admissible in Oregon courts under ORS 41.910, Orville said calmly. Single-party consent state. Neil was present for the conversation, therefore he had every legal right to record it. And that's before we discuss your little performance just now. Felony criminal mischief, attempting to break into a dwelling with a weapon, making terroristic threats. All on video, I might add. He gestured toward Lavinia's house. She waved from her porch, still recording. Letitia looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in years. Dad, please, we can explain. We didn't mean... You meant every word, I said quietly. The question is, what do we do now? Homer rallied, finding some scrap of courage. You can't kick us out. We have rights. We've lived here 4 years. Without a lease, Orville noted. Without paying rent, without any written agreement. In Oregon, that makes you guests, and guests can be asked to leave at any time. That's not, Homer started. Would you like me to cite the specific statute? Orville pulled out his phone. Oregon Revised Statutes 105.05, Section 3, Subsection B. A person with no written rental agreement who occupies a dwelling with the permission of the owner is considered a guest at will and may be asked to vacate without notice. Shall I continue? Homer's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. For a man who'd spent 4 years telling me how smart he was, how his business ideas would change the world, how I just didn't understand modern entrepreneurship, he suddenly looked very, very stupid. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Here's what's going to happen, I said, keeping my voice level. You have 72 hours to remove your personal belongings from my house. Everything you bought with my money stays. Everything you can prove you paid for with your own money, you can take. That's insane! Letitia grabbed at my arm. Dad, you can't... I stepped back. Don't touch me. You lost that right when you planned to steal my home. The words hung in the cold morning air. Somewhere down the street, more lights were coming on. Dawn was starting to break over Portland, and with it, the end of everything they'd built on my generosity. We'll fight this, Homer said, but his voice had lost its conviction. We'll get a lawyer. Please do, Orville said, with that dangerous smile. I look forward to it. They stood there, suitcases at their feet, nowhere to go, finally understanding that the foolish old man they'd been planning to rob was 3 steps ahead of them. I let them inside, not out of kindness, out of strategy. They sat on the couch they'd claimed as their own 4 years ago, looking small and defeated in the morning light filtering through the windows. Homer's expensive Nike jacket was stained with sweat. Letitia's mascara had created dark rivers down her cheeks. Orville remained standing by the door, arms crossed, a sentinel. I took my usual chair across from them, the one I'd been relegated to when they'd reorganized our living room into their personal lounge. Let me show you something else, I said, pulling out the folder Douglas had prepared. This is a complete accounting of every dollar I've given you over the past 4 years. I spread the documents across the coffee table like cards in a winning hand. Bank statements, canceled checks, credit card bills, each one highlighted, annotated, cross-referenced. Letitia's face went from pale to green. You kept track of everything? I'm a businessman, sweetheart. Of course I kept track. I pointed to the first page. Your wedding, $32,000. The venue alone was $12,000. Castaway Portland, because you insisted on waterfront views. Homer opened his mouth. I held up a hand. Then we have your entrepreneurial ventures, Homer. The food truck that lasted 3 months, $18,000. The cryptocurrency mining operation, $23,000. The app development company that never developed an app, $31,000. Shall I continue? Those were investments, Homer said weakly. I said they were loans. You said you'd pay me back. There's a difference. I flipped to another page. Credit cards, $18,000 in the past year alone. Louis Vuitton handbags, dinners at Le Pigeon, Canard, Ox Restaurant. All so you could post photos and pretend you were successful influencers. Letitia was crying again. We were building our brand. You were building debt. I pulled out the final page. Total, $312,000. Plus, interest at the legal rate of 9% annually, which brings us to... I let Douglas's calculation speak for itself. $341,560. The number hung in the air like smoke. We don't have that kind of money, Homer whispered. I know. That's why my attorney will be filing a civil lawsuit for repayment tomorrow morning. I leaned back. Oregon law is very clear on debt collection. You'll be given a payment plan, probably 25% of your income garnished until it's paid off. Should only take you about... I pretended to calculate 15 years, maybe 20. Homer's face had gone from pale to red. Rage was building again. I could see it in the clenched fists, the tight jaw. Men like Homer always reverted to anger when they couldn't manipulate their way out. This is extortion, he snarled. You're trying to ruin us. I'm trying to collect what you owe me. There's a distinction. I glanced at Orville. Isn't there? Significant distinction, Orville agreed. Debt collection is perfectly legal. Attempting to defraud someone of their property, however. He let the sentence dangle. Letitia grabbed my arm again. I pulled away again. Dad, please. We made a mistake. We were stupid. But we're family. You can't do this to your own daughter. That word, family, hit something in my chest. I thought about the little girl who used to climb into my lap with picture books, the teenager who'd help me stock shelves at the bookstore on weekends, the young woman who'd hug me at her college graduation and promised to make me proud. When had she become this person? "You're right," I said quietly. "We are family. That's what makes this so much worse. You didn't betray a stranger, Letitia. You betrayed your father, the man who raised you, loved you, gave you everything he had, and you planned to throw me away like garbage." She flinched like I'd slapped her. Homer stood abruptly. "Come on, Letty. We don't have to listen to this. We'll get our own lawyer. We'll fight this." "With what money?" I asked. "You're broke. I know because I've been paying for everything. Your rent, your food, your gas. Even that BMW you rented for the Vegas trip. $850 for the week, charged to my credit card without permission. Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" Homer's face went from red to purple. "You had no right to spy on us. It's my credit card. I have every right to know how it's being used." I stood now, facing him. "Here's what's going to happen, Homer. You and Letitia are going to find somewhere else to live. You have 72 hours. When you come back to get your things, Orville or I will be here to supervise. You take only what belongs to you, nothing I purchased." "That's most of the furniture," Letitia protested. "Then you should have bought your own furniture." I walked to the door, opened it. "Time's up. Get out of my house." They didn't move. Homer was shaking with rage, Letitia with tears. Orville stepped forward, and that simple movement, no threat, no words, just his presence, made them both stand. 72 hours, Orville repeated. "I suggest you use them wisely. And Mr. Yates, don't come back with another crowbar. Next time I call the police immediately, and you'll be explaining your actions from a jail cell." They grabbed their suitcases and stumbled out. I watched them load their bags into their beat-up Honda Civic, the car they'd bought before they met me, before they'd gotten access to my wallet. It looked small and shabby in the morning light. Homer peeled out of the driveway, tires squealing, theatrical to the end. I closed the door and leaned against it. The house felt larger somehow, emptier but in a good way. "You okay?" Orville asked. "Ask me in a week." I walked to the kitchen, poured fresh coffee. My hands were shaking slightly. "Was I too harsh?" "You were fair. Harsh would have been having them arrested on the spot for attempted breaking and entering. Fair is giving them a chance to leave with dignity." He accepted the coffee I offered, though I doubt they'll see it that way. "They'll fight back," I said. It wasn't a question. Of course they will. Homer's type always does. He's been getting away with things his whole life. I'd bet money this isn't his first con. And Letitia. Orville paused. "She's been enabled. She genuinely believes she's entitled to your money, your house, your life. That delusion won't break easily. So what do? We wait for their move, and we prepare for war." He pulled out his phone. "I have a few calls to make, people I used to work with in the prosecutor's office. Let's see what we can learn about Homer's background, shall we?" 2 hours later, Orville had a file. "You're going to want to see this," he said, laptop open on the kitchen table. I sat down. The screen showed a case file from California, dated 6 years ago. People versus Homer James Yates. Shoplifting, reduced from grand theft. He'd stolen $2,000 worth of electronics from a Best Buy in Sacramento. He told Letitia it was a misunderstanding, I said, remembering their engagement party where the subject had briefly come up. It was very much not a misunderstanding. He had a system, return fraud, stolen credit cards, the works. Only got caught because he was greedy and hit the same store twice. Orville scrolled down. There's more. 3 years ago, he was fired from a sales position for embezzlement. They didn't press charges because the amount was under $5,000 and the company didn't want the publicity. Does Letitia know? I doubt it. Men like Homer are excellent liars. They compartmentalize. One face for the mark, another for the world. I stared at the file. This was who my daughter had married. A con man. A thief. Someone who'd seen her as a path to my money from day one. I should have looked into him before the wedding, I said. Would Letitia have listened? Probably not. She'd been so in love, so convinced Homer was her soulmate. Any objection from me would have been seen as controlling, old-fashioned, trying to ruin her happiness. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This isn't over, old man. You'll regret this." I showed it to Orville. "Save that," he said immediately. "Threatening communications? Add it to the file." He smiled grimly. "They're making this too easy." The next morning, Douglas called. "They hired an attorney," he said without preamble. "Marcus Webb. Small practice, handles mainly traffic violations and small claims. He's filing a motion to contest the eviction and demanding $250,000 in damages for emotional distress. Can he win? No, but he can make noise and waste time, which is probably the goal. They're hoping you'll settle just to avoid the hassle." Douglas paused. "How do you want to handle this?" "Aggressively, file the debt collection lawsuit. And Doug, add the breaking and entering charges. I want everything on record." "You sure? That's your daughter we're talking about." I looked around my quiet kitchen. No Homer playing video games in the living room at 3 a.m. No Letitia complaining about the Wi-Fi speed. Just peace. "I'm sure," I said. "She made her choice. Now she lives with it." The war had begun. The court hearing was scheduled for 11 days later. Multnomah County Circuit Court, Judge Patricia Valdez presiding. Douglas assured me it would be quick. Open and shut cases usually were when the law was this clear. I arrived 30 minutes early with Orville. The courthouse on SW First Avenue was busy with the usual morning rush. Lawyers in suits, defendants looking nervous, families clustered on benches whispering urgently. We took seats in the gallery and waited. Letitia and Homer arrived 15 minutes late. Their attorney, Marcus Webb, was a rumpled man in his 50s, wearing a suit that had seen better days. He carried an overstuffed briefcase and kept dropping papers as they walked to their table. "That's who they hired?" Orville murmured. "I've seen him in traffic court. Barely competent." "Probably all they could afford," I said. Letitia looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, pulled into a messy ponytail. No makeup. She wore jeans and a wrinkled t-shirt. I'd never seen her in public looking so disheveled. Homer was trying to maintain his usual swagger, but the effect was ruined by the cheap suit that didn't quite fit. They must have bought it at a discount store. Something twisted in my chest. Guilt, maybe, or pity. Then I remembered the recording. "When do you think the old man will kick it?" And the feeling passed. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Judge Valdez entered. She was in her 60s, silver hair, sharp eyes that missed nothing. I'd done some research, 15 years on the bench, reputation for zero tolerance for nonsense. "Please be seated." She reviewed the file in front of her. Case number 25CV03847, Yates and Cunningham versus Neil Cunningham, motion to contest eviction and damages. "Mr. Webb, you're representing the plaintiffs?" Webb stood, fumbling with his notes. "Yes, Your Honor. We're here today because my clients, who have resided at 2847 NE Alameda Street for 4 years, were unlawfully evicted by the defendant, who is Ms. Cunningham's father. They came home from vacation to find the locks changed and—" "Mr. Webb," Judge Valdez's voice cut through his rambling. "Is there a written lease agreement?" "Well, no, but did your clients pay rent?" Webb hesitated. "Not formally, but they contributed to household expenses. Did they pay rent, yes or no?" "No, Your Honor, but there was an understanding. An oral agreement? More of a family arrangement." Judge Valdez turned to Douglas. "Mr. Ramsey, your response?" Douglas stood smoothly. "Your Honor, this is straightforward. Under ORS 105-105, my client's daughter and son-in-law were guests in his home. No written lease, no rent payments, no tenant-landlord relationship. Oregon law is explicit. Guests may be asked to leave at the owner's discretion." "Were they given notice?" the judge asked. "They were given 72 hours to collect their belongings, which exceeds any legal requirement for guests." Judge Valdez looked at Webb. "Mr. Webb, do you have any evidence, any written agreement, any proof of rent payment, anything, that establishes your clients as tenants rather than guests?" "We have 4 years of residency, Your Honor. That should establish—" "It establishes that Mr. Cunningham was generous for 4 years. It doesn't establish tenancy." She flipped through more papers. "I also see here that your clients attempted to force entry into the property using a crowbar, causing property damage and making threats. Is that correct?" Webb went pale. "That was a misunderstanding. My clients were confused and upset." "There's video evidence, Your Honor," Douglas interjected. "From a neighbor's security camera, Mr. Yates can be clearly heard threatening Mr. Cunningham with physical harm and placement in a nursing home against his will." The judge's expression hardened. "Is this true, Mr. Webb?" It was said in the heat of the moment. I'll take that as a yes. Judge Valdez closed the file with a sharp snap. Motion denied. The plaintiffs have no legal standing. They are guests who were asked to leave, and they have no right to remain in Mr. Cunningham's property. Furthermore, given the attempted forced entry and threats, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. The plaintiffs are not to come within 100 feet of the property except to retrieve their belongings, and such retrieval must be supervised by law enforcement or a mutually agreed third party. Your Honor, please, Webb started. We're done here, Counselor. As for the damages claim, she scanned the paperwork. $250,000 for emotional distress. Denied. Absolutely denied. Your clients created their own distress through their own actions. Next case. The gavel came down. Letitia burst into tears. Homer slammed his hand on the table hard enough that the bailiff took a step forward. We filed out of the courtroom. In the hallway, Homer tried to approach me, but Orville stepped between us with the casual ease of someone who dealt with angry criminals for 3 decades. Remember the restraining order? Orville said pleasantly. 100 feet. Homer's face was scarlet. This isn't over. We'll appeal. With what money? I asked. The question stopped him cold. You're broke, Homer. Your lawyer barely knows how to file paperwork. You just lost in court, publicly on record. What exactly is your plan now? He had no answer, just fury and impotence warring on his features. Letitia pushed past him. Dad, please, can we just talk? Without lawyers, without Orville, just us? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The woman who'd planned to steal my home, who'd seen me as nothing but a wallet for 4 years, who'd married a con man and never questioned why he was so interested in her father's finances. What would we talk about, Letitia? About fixing this, about family. Her voice cracked. You can't just throw me away. I'm not throwing you away. I'm protecting myself from being robbed. I kept my voice level, emotionless. You made your choices. You chose Homer. You chose to plot against me. You chose to see me as an obstacle rather than your father. Those were your decisions, not mine. We were desperate. We have debt. We have bills. So do millions of people. They don't solve it by planning to steal their parents' homes. I started walking toward the exit. You have 1 week to collect your belongings. Orville will supervise. After that, anything remaining becomes mine. I left them standing in the courthouse hallway, Letitia crying, Homer seething, their discount lawyer looking confused about what had just happened. Outside, the spring air felt clean and fresh. That was harder than I expected, I admitted to Orville. The right thing usually is. He checked his watch. Buy you lunch? I know a place. We ended up at Pine State Biscuits again. Comfort food felt appropriate. Over chicken and waffles, Orville showed me something on his phone. I called in a favor with someone at Fast Cash Loans, he said. That predatory lender Homer borrowed from for his gambling debts? They're about to file their own lawsuit. $34,000 plus late fees plus interest. Total of $41,000 now. How did you get that information? Public records mostly. And the company's VP used to be someone I put away for fraud. He went straight, started working in lending. We've stayed in touch. Professional courtesy. Orville smiled. He was very interested to hear about Homer's criminal history and current financial situation. Their lawyers will be filing within the week. So Homer's about to be drowning in lawsuits. Not just lawsuits, wage garnishment, asset seizure, the works. And since he's currently unemployed, Orville shrugged. It's going to get ugly for them very quickly. I should have felt triumph. Instead, I felt tired. You're having second thoughts, Orville observed. She's still my daughter. She's also still the person who planned to rob you. He leaned forward. Neil, I've dealt with criminals my entire career. The ones who change are the ones who face real consequences. Right now, Letitia and Homer are facing consequences. Either they'll learn from it and become better people, or they won't. But that's on them, not you. My phone buzzed. Text from Lavinia. Just saw your daughter and that man driving slowly past your house. Wanted you to know. I showed Orville the message. They're already violating the restraining order, he said. Want me to call it in? I considered it, then shook my head. Not yet. Let them make a few more mistakes first. Document everything. You're learning, Orville said with approval. Patience is a weapon too. That evening, alone in my house, I stood in what had been Letitia and Homer's bedroom. They'd left it a mess, clothes everywhere, empty takeout containers, the bed unmade, 4 years of treating my home like a hotel. On the dresser, I found a photo I'd never seen before. It was from their wedding day. Letitia was laughing, Homer had his arm around her, and I was in the background, smiling at my daughter's happiness. I'd paid for that day. Every flower, every meal, every moment of joy. And in return, they'd given me betrayal. I left the photo where it was and closed the door. They had 1 week to collect their things. After that, I was moving forward, with or without them in my life. The choice ultimately was theirs. The pickup day arrived 6 days later. Orville volunteered to supervise, but I insisted on being there myself. This was my house, my confrontation, my closure. They showed up in a rented U-Haul truck at 2 in the afternoon. Homer was driving, Letitia in the passenger seat. A third person emerged from the back, a kid who looked maybe 22, probably someone Homer hired off Craigslist for $50. I opened the door before they could knock. You have 4 hours, take only what you personally purchased. Anything I bought stays. Homer pushed past me without a word. The helper kid looked uncomfortable, sensing the tension. Letitia stopped in the doorway. Dad, 4 hours, I repeated. The clock's running. I'd prepared for this. Every item they'd claimed over the years was documented in my spreadsheet with receipts, dates, purchase locations. The sectional sofa from Ashley Home Store, mine, paid in full on my credit card. The 65-inch Samsung TV, mine, invoice saved. The KitchenAid mixer Letitia had sworn she'd used to start a baking blog, mine, still in its box. Homer emerged from their bedroom carrying a duffel bag of clothes. Where's the TV? Staying here. I bought it. That was a Christmas gift. No, it was a loan of my property that you never returned. Check the receipt. I held up my phone with a digital copy. Purchased by Neil Cunningham, December 2022, Best Buy on any Broadway, $799. His jaw clenched. You're really going to be this petty? I'm going to be this accurate. There's a difference. I gestured toward their bedroom. You've got clothes, shoes, personal items, toiletries. The laptop you bought yourself last year, that's yours. Everything else stays. The helper kid was loading boxes into the truck, mostly clothes and books. Letitia had stopped crying at some point and now just looked hollow. She moved through the house like a ghost, touching furniture, picking up picture frames, setting them back down when I shook my head. The bed's mine, I said when Homer tried to disassemble the frame. I bought it when you complained the guest room mattress hurt your back. $1,400 from Mattress Depot. We've been sleeping on it for 3 years, and now you'll sleep on something else. Homer threw down the Allen wrench he'd been using. This is insane. You're stealing from your own daughter. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. I'm stealing? You planned to sell my house without my permission. You stole from me for 4 years, and now you're upset about furniture? I sat down in my armchair, the one they'd relegated me to when they'd taken over the living room. Take what's yours and go. An hour in, Letitia found the wedding album. She stood in the hallway, turning pages slowly. I could see her face from where I sat, each photo a reminder of the day I'd paid for, the future I'd hoped she'd have. Can I keep this? She asked quietly. It was the first thing she'd asked for that gave me pause. The album was technically mine. I'd commissioned the photographer, paid for the printing, ordered the leather binding. But the memories... Take it, I said. She clutched it to her chest like a lifeline. Thank you. It was the first genuine gratitude I'd heard from her in years. By hour 3, the U-Haul was maybe a quarter full. Clothes, a few books, some kitchen items I couldn't prove ownership of, the wedding album, Letitia's laptop, Homer's gym equipment. Everything that defined their life here barely filled 10 boxes. Homer was sweating, furious, defeated. 4 years, he muttered. 4 years, and we're leaving with nothing. You're leaving with exactly what you brought, I corrected. Plus 4 years of free rent, free food, and free funding for failed businesses. I'd say you came out ahead. He lunged at me. Just one step, fist cocked back, face twisted in rage. But Orville had appeared in the doorway. I hadn't even heard him arrive, and Homer froze mid-motion. Don't, Orville said simply. Homer's fist dropped. He pushed past Orville and out to the truck. Letitia was the last to leave. She stood in the front doorway, looking back at the house one final time. I used to be happy here, when I was little. So did I said. Then you grew up and decided I was worth more as an ATM than as a father. She flinched. That's not fair. Fair would have been you contributing to household expenses. Fair would have been Homer paying back even one of his loans. Fair would have been you treating me with respect instead of contempt. I held her gaze. You want to know what's not fair, Letitia? I gave you everything, and you repaid me by plotting to steal my home. That's not fair. Tears were streaming down her face again. I'm sorry. Maybe. But sorry doesn't change anything. I stepped back to close the door. Goodbye, Letitia. Dad, wait. I closed the door, locked it, stood there listening to her sob on the other side for nearly 2 minutes before I heard footsteps retreating, the U-Haul door slamming, the engine starting, then silence. Orville appeared from the kitchen with 2 glasses of whiskey. That was brutal to watch. It was brutal to live. I took the glass, drank. The burn felt appropriate. You did the right thing. Then why do I feel terrible? Because you're a good man doing a hard thing. That's always painful. He sat across from me. But Neil, you need to understand something. This isn't over, not for them. What do you mean? They're desperate now, homeless, broke, facing multiple lawsuits. Desperate people make stupid decisions. He pulled out his phone, showed me a Facebook post. It was from Letitia, posted an hour ago. My father kicked me out of my home with nowhere to go. I'm pregnant and homeless because he values money over family. Please share and help me find resources. Single mom, Jafrash, family, betrayal, jar need help. The post already had 43 shares and 120 comments. She's not pregnant, I said flatly. I know, but 300 people don't know that. Orville scrolled through the comments. Look at this. People offering her money, places to stay, calling you every name imaginable. She's building a narrative where she's the victim. My phone started ringing. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then another call. Another. What's happening? Orville checked his own phone. She tagged your location. People are calling to harass you. He stood, walked to the window. And there's a car parked across the street. Drivers filming the house. I joined him at the window. Sure enough, a woman in a Prius had her phone aimed at my front door. This is getting out of hand, I said. It's about to get worse. Orville showed me another post, this one from a Portland parenting group. Someone had screenshotted Letitia's post and added, "This man is abusing his pregnant daughter. Anyone know him? We need to do something." Within 20 minutes, I had 17 voicemails, 38 text messages from unknown numbers, and 2 eggs thrown at my house. Someone spray-painted child abuser on my mailbox before Lavinia chased them off with her walking stick. Douglas called at 5 p.m. Neil, we need to talk about defamation. Letitia's post is provably false. She's not pregnant. She wasn't kicked out of her home, since it was never legally hers, and she was given ample time to leave. We can file a cease and desist immediately. Do it, I said, watching another car slow down outside my house. And Doug, I want to accelerate the debt collection case. No more waiting. File everything. You sure? That's maximum pressure. They're trying to destroy my reputation with lies. I'm going to destroy their finances with facts. See which one stands up in court. That night, I couldn't sleep. My phone kept buzzing with hateful messages. The doorbell rang twice. Teenage kids thinking they were social justice warriors. Orville stayed over again, this time as security. Around midnight, my phone rang. Letitia. I almost didn't answer. What? The post was Homer's idea, she said immediately. Drunk or crying, I couldn't tell which. Maybe both. He said we needed sympathy, needed help, needed to lie about me publicly. I'm not pregnant. I know you know that. But we're sleeping in the truck, Dad. The U-Haul truck. We can't afford a motel. We can't afford anything. And Homer says it's all your fault. Homer's right about one thing. It is my fault. I enabled you both for too long. I walked to the window, saw the U-Haul parked 3 blocks away under a streetlight. Take down the post, Letitia. I can't. Homer will. I don't care what Homer will do. Take it down, or I'll file for defamation and add it to your debt. Your choice. She hung up. 5 minutes later, the post disappeared. The damage, though, was done. My neighborhood next door app was blowing up with speculation and judgment. Someone had created a petition to investigate elder abuse with my address listed. Orville made another drink. Welcome to the internet age, where lies travel faster than truth. How do we fight this? We don't. We let the courts do the talking. In 3 weeks, the debt collection hearing happens, in public record, with facts and evidence. The truth comes out eventually. He raised his glass. Patience, Neil. You're winning. They just don't know it yet. I hoped he was right, because standing in my house, listening to strangers vilify me based on lies, it sure didn't feel like winning. The harassment died down after 72 hours. Orville's connections helped. He had someone at the Portland Police Bureau issue a warning about the vandalism, and word spread that continuing to target me could result in charges. The internet moved on to its next outrage, and my mailbox remained unmolested. But the damage to Letitia and Homer was just beginning. 2 weeks after the eviction, Douglas filed the formal debt collection lawsuit, $341,560 plus legal fees. It hit the Multnomah County Public Records database on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday, I started getting calls. Mr. Cunningham, this is Sarah Chen from the Portland Tribune. We're doing a story on a debt collection case that's caught our attention. Could you comment? No comment, I said, but I wasn't surprised. Over $300,000 in family debt made for interesting news. The article ran Friday. Local bookstore owner sues daughter and son-in-law for $341K, with a subtitle, Former Cunningham's Books founder seeks repayment for years of financial support. That's when people started to remember who I was. Cunningham's Books had been a Portland institution from 1995 to 2019. 5 locations at its peak, known for author events, children's reading programs, and supporting local writers. I'd sold it to a regional chain for $2.8 million, a fact that had been reported in the Portland Business Journal at the time. The narrative shifted overnight. Wait, Neil Cunningham is that Cunningham? Someone posted on Reddit Portland. My mom worked at his bookstore. He was known for being incredibly generous, paid above minimum wage, gave employees college scholarships. His daughter tried to steal from him. Comments flooded in. Former employees sharing stories. Customers remembering events I'd hosted. The tide of public opinion, fickle as always, began to turn. Lavinia appeared on my doorstep that Saturday with a casserole and gossip. The whole neighborhood's talking, she said, settling into my kitchen like she owned it. Nancy Morrison, 3 houses down, she said her daughter worked at your bookstore in 2005. Paid her way through Portland State, she said. Now, everyone's asking how that nice bookstore man ended up with such ungrateful children. Child, I corrected. Just one. Still, she peered at me over her glasses. You never mentioned you were successful. All these years, you let everyone think you were just a retired nobody. I am retired. The success part is past tense. But why hide it? I thought about that. Because the moment people know you have money, it changes how they see you. I wanted to be just Neil, not Neil, who has money. Even with your own daughter? Especially with my own daughter. I wanted her to love me for who I was, not what I had. I poured Lavinia coffee. Turns out she didn't love me for either. The conversation was interrupted by my phone. Douglas. Neil, you need to see this. He sounded simultaneously amused and appalled. Homer's lawyer withdrew from the case. Webb quit? Sent a one-line email to the court. Client has failed to pay agreed fees, withdrawing representation. Homer's now representing himself in a debt collection lawsuit he has no defense against. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. What about the fast cash loans case? Hearing scheduled for next week. They're not playing around. They want immediate judgment and wage garnishment. Problem is, Homer doesn't have wages to garnish anymore. Douglas paused. Neil, I don't think you understand how bad their situation is. They're living in a motel on 82nd Avenue, the weekly rate kind, cash only, the place where you don't ask questions. Letitia got a job at a Target, minimum wage. Homer's working at a call center, already been written up twice for his attitude. The image was almost too pathetic, from my house in Beaumont, Wilshire, to a pay-by-the-week motel on 82nd. From designer clothes and restaurant meals to retail jobs and ramen. How do you know all this? Public records mostly. Also, Letitia's still posting on social media. She can't help herself. She posted a photo of their motel room with the caption, "This is what family abandonment looks like." Got about 12 likes. People are done with her victim narrative. That evening, Orville came by with news of his own. Remember how I said I'd look into Homer's background? You found something. Multiple somethings. He laid out printouts on my kitchen table. His real name is Homer James Yates Morrison. Dropped the Morrison when he moved to Oregon. Why? Because there's an outstanding warrant for him in California. Failure to appear for a hearing on that shoplifting charge. Bench warrant, $2,500 bail. You're kidding. Wish I was. There's more. The embezzlement from his previous job? The company didn't press charges, but they did file an insurance claim. That claim is public record with their insurance company's fraud investigation unit. If anyone connects the dots... Orville smiled. Let's just say Homer's employment prospects aren't going to improve. Are you going to report him? I'm going to let the universe take its course. Sometimes karma just needs a little push. He pulled out another document. Also, Fast Cash Loans did some digging of their own. Turns out Homer's been gambling online using Letitia's credit cards. Racked up another $17,000 in debt in the past month alone. She doesn't know, not yet, but she will when the bills come. And when she finds out her husband's been lying about where the money's going. Orville leaned back. That marriage is already cracking. This will shatter it. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. When does it end? When they learn the lesson, or when they don't. Either way, not your problem anymore. The debt collection hearing came 3 weeks later. Same courthouse, same judge, very different atmosphere. This time, Homer showed up alone, no attorney, wearing the same ill-fitting suit. Letitia was working, couldn't afford to miss her shift. Judge Valdez reviewed the case file with her characteristic efficiency. "Mr. Yates, you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor." Homer's voice was subdued. The fight had gone out of him. "And do you dispute the debt claimed by Mr. Cunningham?" No, but I can't pay it. We don't have the money." "That's not a legal defense, Mr. Yates." She turned to Douglas. "Mr. Ramsey, you have documentation?" Douglas presented everything. Bank statements, receipts, loan agreements with Homer's signature, credit card bills. Every dollar accounted for. Every promise broken, documented. The judge spent 10 minutes reviewing, then looked up. Judgment for the plaintiff. Mr. Yates, you and Ms. Cunningham are jointly and severally liable for $341,560, plus court costs of $18,200. Total, $359,760. Homer's face went white. "Your Honor, please, we can't. Payment plan will be established at 25% of combined income until debt is satisfied. Additionally, I'm placing a lien on any assets, present or future, and prohibiting the sale or transfer of any property valued over $500 without court approval." She signed the order. Garnishment begins immediately upon employment verification. Next case. Outside the courtroom, Homer looked like he'd aged 10 years. He started to walk past me, then stopped. "You happy now?" His voice was hollow. "You destroyed us. I collected what you owed me. You destroyed yourselves." Letitia's breaking down. She cries every night. "We lost everything because you..." "Because I what? Refused to let you steal my house? Refused to be shipped off to a nursing home? Refused to be your personal bank account?" I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. "You had 4 years to be honest, to contribute, to be family. You chose to plot against me instead. These are the consequences of your choices, Homer, not mine." He had no response. Just walked away, shoulders slumped, heading back to whatever miserable existence he'd built from the ashes of his schemes. Orville appeared beside me. "That was restrained. I'm impressed. I'm tired of being angry. I just want it over." "It's almost over. One more thing will break them completely, and then..." He showed me his phone. Fast Cash Loans got their judgment yesterday. $41,000 immediate payment demanded or asset seizure. Their truck, the one they're living in, is registered in Homer's name. They're going to lose their vehicle. They're going to lose everything. Orville put his phone away. "Question is, what do you want to happen when they hit rock bottom? because that moment is coming, probably within the month. I thought about Letitia, my daughter, the girl who used to dance in my kitchen, the woman who'd planned to rob me. I want them to understand what they did, I said finally. I want real remorse, real change. Not just sorry because they got caught, but actual understanding of the damage they caused. And if they don't reach that understanding, then they live with the consequences. I'm done sacrificing my peace for people who don't value me. We walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Portland was beautiful this time of year. Cherry blossoms blooming, the river sparkling, the city alive with possibility. Somewhere in that same city, my daughter was working a minimum wage job, living in a motel, drowning in debt, and married to a con man who was still lying to her about money. The irony was almost poetic. She'd wanted my money so badly she'd been willing to steal it. Now she had nothing, and I had everything, including my dignity, my home, and my peace of mind. Sometimes justice doesn't feel like winning. It just feels like survival. Rock bottom arrived on a Tuesday in late May. Orville called me at 8 in the morning. "Turn on your computer. You need to see this." I opened my laptop to find a Portland Police Bureau booking photo. Homer James Yates Morrison, arrested at 4 a.m. for failure to appear on the California warrant. Someone, Orville wouldn't say who, but I had my suspicions, had tipped off the authorities about his location. Bail was set at $2,500. He was still in custody. "Letitia doesn't know yet," Orville said. "She was at work, night shift at Target now, stocking shelves. She'll find out when she gets back to the motel and he's not there. What happens to him? California will request extradition for the original charge. He'll fight it, lose, get sent back. Best case scenario, he plea bargains and serves 90 days. Worst case, they add the failure to appear, and he's looking at 6 months. Orville paused. Either way, Letitia's on her own for the foreseeable future. I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow. She can't afford that motel alone. No, she can't, which means she's about to be homeless. He must have heard something in my silence. Don't kneel. Don't even think about it. She's still my daughter. She's still the woman who planned to rob you. The moment you help her, you teach her that actions don't have consequences, that Daddy will always bail her out, no matter what she does. His voice hardened. Let her fall. It's the only way she learns. He was right. I knew he was right, but that didn't make it easier. The call came at 10 a.m. Letitia, crying so hard I could barely understand her. "Dad, they arrested Homer. He's in jail, and I don't have bail money, and I don't know what to do, and—" "Stop." I kept my voice level. "Why was he arrested?" "Some old warrant from California. It's a mistake. It has to be a mistake. Letitia, Homer has been lying to you about a lot of things. That warrant isn't a mistake. He skipped a court date for shoplifting." Silence. Then, quietly, "You knew?" "Orville found it when he did a background check. There's more, but right now isn't the time." I sat down, suddenly very tired. "Where are you?" "The motel, but I can't pay for tonight. I don't get paid until Friday, and even then it's not enough," and her voice cracked. "Dad, I have nowhere to go." Every instinct screamed to help her, to wire her money, to let her come home, to fix everything like I'd always fixed everything. But Orville's words echoed, "Actions have consequences. Then you need to find a shelter. Portland Rescue Mission has beds for women. So does Blanchet House." I heard her sharp intake of breath, the shock that I wasn't offering money. "I'm sorry, Letitia, but I can't help you. Can't or won't. Both." I closed my eyes. "You need to figure this out yourself. No more Daddy's wallet. No more running from reality. This is your life now. What are you going to do about it?" She hung up on me. I sat there holding the phone, feeling like the worst father in the world, while simultaneously knowing I was doing the right thing. Douglas called an hour later. "Letitia just filed for divorce from Homer. Emergency filing, claim financial abandonment and fraud. She's asking for annulment based on misrepresentation." That was fast. She's learning. Also, she withdrew from the joint debt case, filed a motion claiming she was coerced by Homer and had no knowledge of the fraudulent intentions. He sounded impressed despite himself. "It won't work. She signed the loan agreements too, but it shows she's trying to save herself instead of going down with him." "What does that mean for the collection?" "You'll still get your judgment against both of them, but she's trying to establish that Homer was the primary bad actor. Smart, actually." If she can prove he controlled the finances and manipulated her, she might get the debt assigned primarily to him. Douglas paused. Neil, she's cutting Homer loose to save herself. That's stone cold. It was also exactly what I would have done in her position. Maybe she had learned something from me after all. The next piece fell 3 days later. Lavinia caught me taking out the trash, bursting with news she could barely contain. Did you hear? Your daughter's living with someone from her target. Girl named Jessica has an apartment in Gresham. Saw it on Facebook. Letitia posted a photo thanking her for being a real friend in hard times. Lavinia's expression was scandalized and delighted. Only got 42 likes. Used to get hundreds, remember? I remember. I remembered a lot of things. The designer clothes, the restaurant check-ins, the carefully curated life that was all image and no substance. She looks different, Lavinia continued. No makeup, hair in a ponytail, wearing a Target vest in her photos. Almost looks normal. Normal. What a concept. 2 weeks crawled by. I heard nothing from Letitia. Homer was extradited to California, pleaded guilty to avoid trial, got 4 months with credit for time served. The fast cash loans case moved forward. They seized his truck for non-payment, sold it at auction for $8,000, applied it to his debt. Letitia's Instagram went quiet. No more posts about her fabulous life, her amazing husband, her bright future. Just silence. Then, on a Wednesday evening in mid-June, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Letitia stood on my porch alone, wearing her Target uniform, looking exhausted. No makeup, no designer bag, no attitude. Just my daughter, tired and defeated. I opened the door, didn't invite her in. Yes? I'm not here to ask for money, she said it quickly like she'd rehearsed. Or to move back in, or for anything except, I need to say something. I waited. You were right, about everything. She looked at her hands. Homer was lying about the gambling, about his past, about his plans. He told me 2 days before the arrest that he'd been betting online with my credit cards. $17,000 I didn't know about. That's when I knew you were right about him. And I was wrong about you. I thought you were just this boring old guy who didn't understand modern life, who was holding me back. I was embarrassed by you, by the fact that you ran a bookstore instead of some tech company, by the fact that you didn't care about impressing people. Tears started falling, but she didn't wipe them away. I didn't value you. I took everything you gave me and treated it like it was owed to me. And when that wasn't enough, I planned to take even more. The apology I'd waited months to hear. But now that it was here, I found it didn't change anything. What do you want me to say, Letitia? I don't know, that you forgive me, that we can start over? She finally looked up at me. I know I don't deserve it. I know I destroyed everything, but you're still my dad, and I still love you, and I'm so, so sorry. I leaned against the doorframe. I believe you're sorry. I believe you've learned something from this. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust, and trust isn't something you can apologize back into existence. You broke something fundamental between us. I know. I don't know if it can be fixed. I don't know if I want to try fixing it. The words hurt to say, but they were true. You're my daughter, and I'll always love you, but I don't like who you became. And I don't know if the person standing in front of me now is who you really are, or just who you're pretending to be because you hit bottom. She nodded, crying harder now. That's fair. You want to prove you've changed? Do it for yourself, not for me. Get your life together, pay off your debts, build something real instead of something for Instagram. Show me through actions over years, not words today. And then maybe we can talk about rebuilding. But Letitia, I'm 62 years old. I spent 4 years being used and disrespected in my own home. I don't have energy for false hope and repeated disappointment. Either you change or you don't. Either way, I'm going to be okay. She stood there for a long moment, tears streaming down her face, then nodded. Okay, I understand. She turned to leave, then stopped. Dad, for what it's worth, I'm really proud of what you built with the bookstores. I was stupid to be embarrassed. You created something beautiful that helped people, and I threw that back in your face because I was shallow and selfish. I'm sorry. I watched her walk down the path to a beat-up Honda, Jessica's car, probably. She didn't look back. When she was gone, I went inside and sat in my quiet living room. The house felt peaceful. Safe. Mine again. Orville called 10 minutes later. Let me guess. Letitia showed up, apologized, and you sent her away anyway. How did you know? Because I've been watching her social media. She posted a photo of your street with the caption, "Some bridges take years to rebuild." Cryptic but telling. He paused. How do you feel? Like I did the right thing, like it hurt anyway. I looked around my empty house. Like maybe someday, if she really does change, we might find our way back to each other. But not today. Good man. Orville's approval was evident. Time and consistency, Neil. Those are the only things that prove real change. Meanwhile, you live your life. You've won. The house is yours, the debts are documented, and they're finally facing the reality of their choices. That's as much justice as you're going to get. He was right. Justice served, lessons learned, at least on my end. Whether Letitia would learn hers remained to be seen. But that was her journey now, not mine. Summer passed in a blur of peace. I repainted the guest room, what had been Letitia and Homer's disaster zone, in a soft blue. Replaced the damaged carpet with hardwood, turned it into a proper reading room with built-in shelves and a comfortable chair by the window. The house transformation felt symbolic somehow, erasing their presence one room at a time. Douglas called in mid-July with an update. The garnishment kicked in. Letitia's paying $260 a month from her target salary. At that rate, she'll have the debt paid off in... He paused to calculate. About 73 years. She'll be 108, give or take. More realistically, she'll need to find better employment or agree to a settlement. He cleared his throat. Actually, that's why I'm calling. She wants to negotiate, reduce the principal in exchange for a lump sum payment. What lump sum? She's broke. She's planning to file bankruptcy. Chapter 7. Wipe out most of her debts. But family debt can be tricky in bankruptcy court, especially when there's documented fraud involved. She's hoping you'll accept $50,000 now, money she's apparently been saving aggressively, to forgive the rest. $50,000. She'd been paying me back without being asked, squirreling away money from a minimum wage job. That took discipline I didn't know she possessed. Tell her I'll think about it, I said. Neil, that's 14 cents on the dollar. It's a terrible deal. I know, but I'm not trying to destroy her. I'm trying to teach her. If she's genuinely saving, genuinely changing... I looked around my peaceful house. Tell her I want to see 6 months of consistent payments before I consider any settlement. And I want proof she's actually changing her life, not just managing her debt. Douglas sighed. You're too soft. Maybe. Or maybe I was just tired of being at war with my own daughter. The Portland Small Business Association event came in early August. I'd almost forgotten about it until the invitation arrived. Lifetime Achievement Award for Neil Cunningham's contributions to Portland's literary community. They wanted to honor Cunningham's books and its impact on the city. Orville insisted I go. You've been hiding long enough. Time to remind Portland who you are. The event was held at the Sentinel Hotel downtown. 200 people in attendance. Business owners, authors, former employees, journalists. I wore my best suit, felt simultaneously honored and exposed. The presentation was more emotional than I expected. They showed a video montage, photos of all 5 bookstore locations over the years, clips from author events, testimonials from employees. A woman named Sandra Martinez, who'd worked at my Alberta Street location in 2008, spoke about how I'd given her a $10,000 scholarship for Portland Community College when her father died. Mr. Cunningham didn't just run a business, she said, tears in her eyes. He invested in people. He saw potential in a scared 19-year-old cashier and changed her life. I'm a teacher now because of him. 3 more former employees shared similar stories. College tuition help, health insurance during family crises, loans for car repairs that I'd quietly forgiven. I'd honestly forgotten most of it. It had just seemed like the right thing to do at the time. The standing ovation lasted nearly 2 minutes. Afterward, during the reception, a journalist from Willamette Week approached me. Mr. Cunningham, can I ask about the lawsuit with your daughter? It's public record and given tonight's event. I considered deflecting, then decided truth was simpler. My daughter and her husband took advantage of my generosity for 4 years. When I discovered they were planning to commit fraud and steal my property, I took legal action. It's unfortunate, but necessary. Do you think the public attention changed her behavior? I think consequences changed her behavior. The publicity just made the consequences harder to ignore. I met his eyes. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them fail. They either learn from it or they don't, but at least you gave them the chance. The quote appeared in their article 3 days later, alongside photos from the event and a retrospective on Cunningham's books. The headline, How Portland's Beloved Bookstore Owner Dealt with Family Betrayal. Comments poured in, most supportive, some critical, all having opinions about my parenting and Letitia's choices. I stopped reading after the first dozen, but Letitia must have read it, because she showed up at my door the next evening. This time, I invited her in. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd overheard her and Homer plotting. She looked different, leaner, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a clean t-shirt. No designer labels, no artificial persona. Just my daughter. I saw the article, she said, and the video from the event. I didn't know you did all those things for your employees. You never asked. I never cared enough to ask. I thought you were just a bookstore owner. I didn't realize you were changing lives. She twisted her hands in her lap. I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about proving change through actions, not words. And I've been putting every extra dollar into a savings account. I'm up to $11,000. Target promoted me to shift supervisor, $8 more an hour, and I've been taking online classes through Portland Community College, business administration. She pulled out her phone, showed me her grades. All A's. I want to understand money, how to manage it, how to build something real instead of just spending on image. I studied her face. No tears this time, no manipulation, just quiet determination. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I'm serious. I'm not asking for forgiveness or for you to reduce the debt or anything like that. I wanted you to see that I'm trying. She put her phone away. Also, I'm moving out of Jessica's place next month. Got approved for a studio apartment in Park Rose. It's small and not fancy, but it's mine. I can afford it on my own. I'm proud of you. The words came out before I could stop them, but they were true. Her eyes widened. Really? You're doing what I asked, rebuilding from the ground up, proving through actions that you've changed. That takes courage. I leaned forward. But Letitia, this needs to continue. Not for a few months, but for years. Consistency is the only thing that proves real change. I know. That's why I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to see. She stood to leave. Can I come by sometimes, just to update you? Not to visit or reconcile or anything? Just to show you my progress? It was such a small request, such a careful one, respecting the boundaries I'd set. Once a month, I said, first Sunday, bring proof of your savings, your grades, your rent payments, show me you're staying on track. Deal. She smiled, genuinely smiled for the first time in months. Thank you, Dad. After she left, Orville called. I'm guessing that was Letitia's car I saw leaving. She's changing. Slowly, but genuinely, I think. Good. But Neil, stay cautious. People can backslide. Don't let your guard down until you've seen at least a year of consistency. I won't. I looked around my quiet house. But I can hope, can I? Hope's fine. Just protect it with boundaries. The first Sunday of September, Letitia showed up with a folder. Bank statements showing $12,800 in savings. Pay stubs from Target. Her fall semester schedule, 4 classes, all business-related. A copy of her lease agreement for the Park Rose studio. We sat on the porch, not quite comfortable, but not hostile either. She told me about her manager training at Target, about the business finance class she was acing, about finally understanding what a budget meant. Homer called from California, she said carefully. Wanted money for his commissary account. What did you tell him? I told him we're divorced and he's on his own. Then I blocked his number. She looked at me. I should have done that months ago. Should have listened when you tried to warn me about him. You weren't ready to hear it then. I'm ready now. She stood to leave. Same time next month? Same time. I watched her drive away in Jessica's borrowed car. She was saving for her own vehicle, she'd told me, refusing to take on car loan debt until she had a proper down payment. Small steps, careful choices. Real change, maybe. Or maybe just a daughter finally learning what her father had tried to teach her all along. That value isn't measured in Instagram likes or designer clothes, but in integrity, responsibility, and the quiet dignity of building something real. Time would tell which it was. But for the first time in months, I felt something like hope. September turned into October, and Letitia kept showing up. First Sunday of each month, like clockwork. September brought $12,800 in savings. October showed $15,200. Her grades remained perfect. Her rent, paid on time. Her life, slowly becoming something resembling stable. "I'm applying for assistant manager," she told me that October morning. The pay bump would be significant, $18 an hour plus benefits. "That's excellent," I meant it. Also, I talked to Douglas about a settlement. "I want to pay you back properly, not through bankruptcy." She pulled out a document. "I've been working with a financial counselor, free service through the community college. They helped me create a 10-year payment plan. $30,000 total. I know it's not the full amount, but it's what I can realistically pay while still rebuilding my life. $30,000 over 10 years. Still a fraction of what she owed, but it represented something more important. Commitment to making it right. "I'll review it with Douglas," I said. "But Letitia, I need you to understand something. This isn't about the money anymore. It's about whether I can trust you again. Money I can make. Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild." "I know." She met my eyes. "That's why I'm not asking you to trust me yet. I'm asking you to watch me earn it back." 3 weeks later, Douglas called with unexpected news. Homer's out of prison, served his time, got released early for good behavior. And Neil, he's trying to contact Letitia. She blocked him. He found other ways. He's desperate, facing his own debt collection cases, no job prospects with his record, nowhere to go. He's been calling her workplace, showing up at her apartment building. Douglas paused. "She filed for a restraining order yesterday." "Good. There's more. He contacted me, asking if you'd be willing to settle his portion of the debt. Says he's willing to sign over anything he has, admit to everything, if you'll just reduce what he owes." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "He has nothing to sign over, and I have his admission on tape already. What exactly is he offering?" "Desperation mostly, but Neil, I think he's planning something. The way he was talking, the questions he was asking about Letitia's settlement negotiations. I think he's going to try to sabotage her progress somehow." He tried exactly 1 week later. I was at the bookstore, not my old store, but Powell's, browsing the memoir section, when I heard the commotion, raised voices near the entrance. I looked up to see Homer, disheveled and wild-eyed, pointing at someone. That someone was Letitia in her Target uniform on her lunch break. "You ruined my life!" Homer's voice carried through the store. "Everything was fine until you turned on me. Your father poisoned you against me." Security was already moving toward them, but I was closer. I stepped between them, facing Homer for the first time since the courthouse. "Step back," I said quietly. Homer's face twisted. "You! This is all your fault. If you just helped us like a normal father." "If I just let you steal my house, you mean?" I kept my voice level, aware of the growing crowd. "If I'd let you forge documents and commit fraud?" "We were desperate. You had money and you needed to learn that actions have consequences. Congratulations, you learned." I turned to Letitia. "You okay?" She nodded, but she was shaking. Homer tried to push past me, and security grabbed him. He struggled, shouting obscenities, making wild accusations. The store manager called the police. Within 10 minutes, Homer was in handcuffs. Violation of restraining order, disturbing the peace, attempted assault. I gave my statement. Letitia gave hers. A dozen witnesses offered their accounts. As they led him away, Homer looked at me with pure hatred. "You destroyed us! You're supposed to be her father." "I am her father. That's why I taught her the difference between enabling and loving. You should have learned that lesson too." They took him away. Letitia collapsed into a chair, crying. I sat beside her, close but not touching, letting her process. "I was so stupid," she said finally. "I chose him over you. I let him convince me you were the problem. You were in love, or what you thought was love. It wasn't love. It was manipulation. He saw me as an access point to your money from the beginning, didn't he?" "Probably. No point in sugarcoating it now." She wiped her eyes. "I owe you more than money, Dad. I owe you an apology that actually means something." She turned to face me fully. "You gave me everything. A home, an education, security, love, and I treated you like an obstacle. I was ashamed of you because you weren't flashy or impressive by Instagram standards. I let a con man convince me that stealing your home was justified because we deserved it. Letitia, please let me finish. Her voice was steady now. You tried to teach me about work ethic, about integrity, about building real value instead of performing success. And I ignored it all because I thought I knew better. I thought you were just a boring old bookstore owner who didn't understand the modern world. She laughed bitterly. Turns out you understood it better than I did. You built something real while I was chasing likes and followers. Around us, bookstore patrons pretended not to listen while absolutely listening. The irony of having this conversation in a bookstore, a monument to the kind of business I'd built, wasn't lost on me. I forgive you, I said. She blinked. What? I forgive you. Not because you've paid enough or suffered enough, but because you've changed. Real change. The kind that took months of consistent effort and humility. I finally reached out, took her hand. You're not the person who planned to steal my house. That person was shallow and entitled and cruel. You're someone who works 2 jobs, takes college classes, saves every penny, and faces her mistakes head on. That person, I can forgive. She was crying again, but different tears this time. I don't deserve it. Probably not, but forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing to move forward. I stood, helped her up. Come on, I'll buy you lunch. Somewhere nice. Not Instagram nice, but actually good food nice. We ended up at a small Vietnamese restaurant on Division Street. Over PHO and spring rolls, we talked. Really talked, maybe for the first time in years. She told me about her classes, her goals, her plans to eventually manage her own retail store. I told her about my life, the quiet contentment of retirement, the volunteer work I'd started with literacy programs, the travel I was planning. I'm going to Italy in December, I said. Orville and I, 3 weeks, Florence, Rome, Venice. That sounds amazing, she smiled. Send me pictures? I will, and Letitia. When I get back, if you're still on track, still making progress, maybe we can have dinner once a week, start rebuilding what we had. I'd like that, a lot. We finished lunch. I paid, she protested, but I insisted. Small gestures, rebuilding trust one meal at a time. As we walked out, she turned to me. What happened to Homer today? He's going back to jail, isn't he? Probably. Restraining order violation is serious, especially with witnesses and his record. Good. She said it without hesitation. He needs to face his consequences too. Maybe he'll learn, maybe he won't. But that's not my problem anymore. I drove her back to work, watched her walk into Target with her head high, her uniform pressed, her life finally heading in a direction she could be proud of. That evening, Orville came over for our weekly chess game. I told him about the confrontation at Powell's, about the conversation with Letitia, about the forgiveness I'd offered. You're satisfied with how this turned out? He asked, moving his knight. Satisfied isn't the right word. I'm at peace. I countered with my bishop. I stood up for myself. I taught my daughter a lesson she desperately needed. I protected my home and my dignity, and in the end, she learned from it. That's more than I hoped for 6 months ago. And the money? Douglas is finalizing the settlement. $30,000 over 10 years. It'll never cover what they took, but it's not about the money. It's about accountability. I smiled. Besides, I have enough. The house is paid off, my retirement is secure, and I'm planning a trip to Italy. Life's pretty good. Orville captured my rook. Checkmate in 4 moves. Show off. We played until midnight, 2 old friends enjoying a quiet evening in a house that was finally, truly mine again. No drama, no schemes, no walking on eggshells, just peace. The settlement papers were signed in early November. Letitia got her assistant manager position. Homer pled guilty to violating the restraining order and got 6 months, this time in Oregon. The garnishment continued, the debt slowly being paid down. Life moved forward. On my last Sunday breakfast with Letitia before my Italy trip, she brought me a gift, a leather-bound journal with Cunningham's books embossed on the cover. I had it custom made, she said. I thought you could use it for your travels. Write about Italy, about the bookstores you visit, about whatever you want. And when you're done, maybe you'd let me read it. I opened it to find the first page inscribed, To the man who taught me that real success is measured in integrity, not Instagram likes. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. Love, Letitia. For the first time in this entire ordeal, I felt tears threatening. Thank you, I managed. This is perfect. So are we okay? I mean, really okay? I looked at my daughter, no longer the entitled woman who'd planned to steal my home, but someone who'd been broken down and rebuilt herself stronger. The journey wasn't over. Trust would take years more to fully restore, but we were on the right path. We're getting there, I said, one Sunday at a time. She smiled, and for the first time in years, I saw the little girl who used to bring me dandelions and call them sunshine flowers. Maybe some things, once broken, could be repaired after all. Not restored to what they were, but built into something new, something better, something real. And that, I decided, was victory enough. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.